do not know me, my name is Kelly Shear. I'm the admissions director here at Bottega University. And tonight we're going to be hearing from Mimi Ross. She is the director of strategic partnerships at ReachHire. And she has some really awesome information to provide us this evening in regards to return to work opportunities. So without further ado, Mimi, I will let you go ahead and take the floor and give your presentation this evening.
Great. Thanks so much for having me, Kelly.
Sure, of course.
Go ahead and start sharing my screen. Go ahead and start. Thanks again for having me. My name is Mimi Moss. I am the Director of Strategic Partnerships, as Kelly mentioned, at ReachHire. And I'm really excited to introduce ReachHire to you to talk a little bit about our mission and also how to engage with us. So we've all applied to jobs and while unemployed or employed at the time, no matter what the circumstance, the process can be intimidating. It can be unclear and quite nerve-wracking. We've all been through it, sometimes many, many times. And ReachHire exists to change that process and bring the human aspect back to talent sourcing. So through our returnship model, our goal is to bridge the gap between highly qualified talent like yourself and companies who need your great talent. We tell your story, we advocate for you as more than just a resume and a name on a piece of paper. So generally speaking, I would love to start by talking about what is a returnship. And returnships have gotten a little bit more common in the last few years. Essentially, it's a paid internship for experienced professionals looking to return to work after a career break. And it's really not an entry-level position. So sometimes hiring managers call returners interns, but really our goal is to reinsert people back to the workforce in the mid-manager roles and not the entry-level roles. And all the while you're refreshing your skills and getting experience to ramp up to a full-time career. So a quick overview of how ReachHire returnships work. So returnships kind of follow similar processes to other roles, but it's what we call kind of a kinder, gentler way to re-enter and get introduced to a company. So the first stage is research and apply. We have roles on our website. We'll talk about those a little bit later. And we run returnships at all different times of year. Some are predictable and cyclical, but when we engage with a client, whenever they're ready to begin, we open the applications and they're open for a very finite period of time. And then the returnship begins on one day for everybody at that given company. We'll talk about that a little bit later as well. And then after you research and apply, if your skills are a match or your transferable skills are a match, you interview with our recruiters. And by skills, it doesn't necessarily have to mean on-the-job training. It could just be classes that you've taken in a particular area and other transferable skills to add on to that. And then if we determine that it's a good match for you and the company, we submit your resume, and then the client decides whether or not they're going to grant an interview. And it's just a one and done process at the client programs. So the client will interview you, all virtual right now, a one interview process, and then they'll decide whether or not you're going to get an offer for the 6-month program. And then ideally at the conclusion of the program, you'll have an opportunity to convert to full-time. So we think of it as a trial period for both you and the company. Though returnships at ReachHire are unique, some companies have returnships where it's a year long, some are 9 months, some are part-time. So this is a paid 26-week or 6-month cohort model program. And it all starts with customized training. So that's a very unique part of what we do, is that if you are offered a role as in one of the returnship programs, then you receive that customized training based on the client and role that you'll be filling. It's 1 week, so the whole first week that you're employed, you are in training with ReachHire facilitators and program managers designed to set you up for success because if you've been out of work for an extended period of time, I personally took a 10-year career break. So it was really intimidating for me to come back to work. I was very nervous about how to communicate effectively, what tools to use. My skills were outdated. And so a 1-week training gives people like me, where I was in that part of my career, just an introduction to here's what to expect. You're using Slack or you're using Teams, and here's how people communicate. Here's the lay of the land. Here we introduce you to leadership. So it's a really robust part of the program. You get to know the other members of your cohort. In other words, everyone else who has been accepted for that particular program in all different roles all start on the same exact day. So you're going through it with a bunch of other people. We have cohorts from 6 people to 50 people and everything in between. So it kind of becomes your additional support system. And then we also have a dedicated program manager to kind of be there with you every step of the way. We have program managers assigned to programs that meet with participants once a month or as needed. They meet with your managers, check in. We also offer monthly ongoing training to make sure your skills are sharp, make sure you're still connecting with one another, and provide just additional layers of support. And the cohort of like-minded individuals that you're working with really act as your sounding board, and you coach each other along the way also. Sometimes people who haven't been working for a couple of years feel bad about asking their manager what they consider to be very, minor questions like, oh, do you guys know how this works? Or who do I go to for this? And so your fellow cohort members can be a real resource to you. We also assign mentors at all of the client companies. So you also have an assigned mentor who works there as well. So quite a bit of support around you. And then you also have a network of support from other ReachHire alumni. We have 500 plus folks that have gone through our programs or paid trainings that are mostly working either in the companies that they went through or they've gotten roles elsewhere. So we have alumni programming as well. And of course, you have the whole ReachHire family behind you. So that's a little bit about how our returnships work. And here are some of the client companies that we've worked with. There's a few more, but these are the big players on our list. We're on our 3rd cohort at T-Mobile. We're up to number 4 at Wayfair. Fidelity runs programs twice a year, and they're around between 35 and 50 roles each. And we're going to start recruiting for that program shortly. And here are a few others as well. I also wanted to mention Inmar Intelligence. They are based in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, but all their roles are 100% virtual and all in tech. And so we are wrapping up recruiting season for that one, but that's one particular client that has remote roles. T-Mobile also has quite a few remote roles, and we're going to start recruiting for the next cohort probably over the summer. So a couple of things to keep your eye out for. So how do returnships catapult re-entry into the workforce? So let's talk about how this can help you. So the program really gives candidates the runway to get acclimated to a new company and to a corporate environment. Time to settle into the 9 to 5, especially if you were displaced by the pandemic. Maybe you have been working part-time. Sometimes if you've been underemployed, that also counts as a career break. So with ReachHire, it does. So for example, if you were displaced by the pandemic, you needed to change things up, work from home, decided to take a break and take some coursework, that all counts as a career break. Just because you were working, it doesn't mean that, and if you were underemployed, meaning you fell off your career, you stepped off your career track to do other things. And so the way that the returnship model really helps you is because it's a gentler way to get back to work, and it's a max of a 40-hour work week. So for example, if you, most full-time folks don't have a true 40-hour work week, it usually creeps up to 50, sometimes 60 hours a week. So we really try to keep that cap at 40 so that you can really get used to working 8 hours a day for 26 weeks in a row. You're also having that opportunity to sharpen your skills and increase confidence. Once you're a part of the company, you're an employee of ReachHire, but it's kind of like you're like a contractor on site at the company. We will guide you in networking, getting to know all the folks on your team, outside your team, and just to be able to sharpen those networking skills is also really, really great for confidence with returners as well. All the time you're working towards the goal of a full-time employment opportunity. So a couple of tips I wanted to share with you, which we felt were really important for all people to know if you are considering a return to work. Number one, obviously refresh your skills, upskill, taking courses, refresh your resume, definitely take a professional headshot. I do this with my phone at home. I don't pay for a photographer. I take photos of other people with my phone, especially with iPhones right now and other smartphones. The cameras are pretty amazing, so you don't need to hire somebody to do it. But we do recommend having a professional headshot and having a headshot in your LinkedIn profile as well. Make sure that you're on LinkedIn, that you are connecting with people. The more people that know that you're looking for work, the better. Ask people if they want to have a virtual coffee, ask folks for introductions, informational interviews, all really important. And actually there's a feature on LinkedIn now where you can click on a button that says that you've taken a career break. So that's a really easy way for people to see that you've done it. And also share your career break story. This is something we recommend done on a LinkedIn profile, not necessarily on a resume, but not to apologize for taking a break, but rather to just explain it briefly and make it clear that you're excited to return to full-time work. And as part of the application process, we do help in refreshing resumes, editing resumes, and also preparing you for interviews as well. So our recruitment process is a little unique. So the level of support we provide, somebody on your side, advocating you, helping you through each step of the process is kind of what we're all about, and how it sets us apart from other companies, and also how it sets us apart from a traditional job search. So we're not a staffing firm. So that's why, our recruitment process is very different than that. But the idea is to put your mind at ease around the timeline, what happens once you apply to one of our programs, job openings. And as I mentioned, programs kick off at various points throughout the year, and as we add new clients to the program roster. So our advice to you is to keep your eyes open and follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or any one of those to know when we are launching recruitment for something. And then you can also opt in on our website to apply for one of our tracks. It's not necessarily an application for a position, but we have different tracks based on skill set. So if you're a Java developer, then you'll see that as a category. You enter your information there, and we'll notify you when a role comes up that you would be a good match for. So how can you stand out in tech? And what's important for returners in tech is the continuous learner mentality. So, Bottega already preaches that, but we also know that that makes a huge difference when we're looking at resumes and when hiring managers are reviewing resumes. Have you committed to upskilling? Have you committed to, maybe it's a change, maybe you're going from one specialty to another? And often, especially in the tight market that we're in right now, it's not always required to have on-the-job experience in a particular skill, but rather it's fine to have taken the coursework, and then you'll get that on-the-job opportunity through a returnship. And it's a lot for a hiring manager. They would be much more willing to potentially take a chance on somebody that hasn't had that on-the-job training through a returnship, because it is a trial period, and because the projects that you would be given would be tailored just for the program. So here's a few things that are important. A lot of them are common sense, but LinkedIn endorsements and recommendations, we highly recommend doing that. Recommendations, even if you haven't started looking yet, it's a great idea to ask for those recommendations early and give people time to write them. Making sure that you're aligning with the company values during an interview. And remember, diversity of thought and experience does matter to employers. So if you haven't been on a ladder, but rather a jungle gym like I have, I've done a lot of different things in my career, that just adds to your depth and breadth of experience. And it doesn't have to be a straight line. Again, upskilling, really, really important. You know, obviously all of these things are really kind of top of mind right now. We keep seeing agile methodology pop up across industries, so it's very widespread. Haven't studied it yet. We highly encourage reading up on this work style and some of the associated software such as Jira that many teams are now using to work through long-term big scale projects. Big emphasis on data science, again, across all industries. And as we know, there's so much power in data, and many companies are continuously searching for ways to streamline, use resources more efficiently, et cetera. And some of the softwares that provide the data are huge right now. So any knowledge in this space is usually an add-on for many managers in larger organizations. And of course, those are just a few. But we have seen a very, very dramatic uptick in tech roles over the past couple of years. So how to get started? I mentioned a couple of these things. I'm on LinkedIn, our recruiters are on LinkedIn. You can go on and see all of them and connect with them. So we welcome that. If you're in our database through our website, you will automatically be subscribed to our newsletters, which we send out about once a month, sometimes more frequently if we have a lot of new programs launching. We also have virtual events that we're running. The next one is in mid-May. We haven't put it on our website yet, but it's all about networking with other people. And also there'll be a little bit of a discussion around confidence. This is something that we hear a lot, that people aren't even sure if they want to return. They're not sure they're ready. So how do you know if you're ready? And then how do you build up your confidence to go for it? So we'll be having a conversation about that, but keep an eye out for that. I think May 24th is going to be the date. And then, of course, joining our talent community through our website is always a great idea. And we will be kind of rolling out more and more virtual events just around whether it's upskilling, LinkedIn 101, resume tips, and all of our events are free. So again, here is the application process. I also wanted to mention that it is free to apply. So there's no cost to candidates and participants. Our clients pay all of our fees. So if you are interested in going ahead and doing it, there's absolutely no cost to you. Oops. There we go. So here is what we are currently recruiting for. The company we're currently working with is Citi. Used to be Citibank, now it's Citi. And we will be launching another program in another couple of weeks. So we're getting ready for another busy period, a busy spring. These are all the locations that they're in. They are hybrid roles, so they do require you to be local to that area. And these are the roles that are included in one or more of all of these locations. I think there's 26 positions total. So again, if you don't see something that fits with your background, it's not in the location you're in, go ahead and you can apply for one of our tracks, or check us out on LinkedIn and keep checking. There are always new programs launching at any given time. And of course, there's me. Please feel free to link in with me. There are social media handles, or you can also email info@reachhire.com if there's any other questions that you have. And I know that this will be posted on your site as well. So it's always there for you. And I'd love to open it up to questions if you have any.
Well, thank you so much for sharing more about that. Certainly feel free to ask any questions. You can voice them here by unmuting, or you can go ahead and put those in the chat box and we will answer those questions. Mimi, you said something and I really wanted to touch base on that as far as having a career break. You talked a lot about doing a lot of different roles and, you know, not really having that ladder effect throughout your career. I think you made some really good points there, as it's really important that everyone kind of understands that we may start out somewhere and then maybe figure out, hey, this wasn't for me, or I'm going to go a completely different path. So that was a really good item that you brought up. And I think that kind of relates to most of us here on the call. I know it does for me personally. Talking about like a career break, that could also go as far as an education break. And I can use myself as an example. I started my college, my higher education journey probably about 10, 15 years ago. And still to this day, I am in class. I am in school finishing up my degree simply because just life got in the way, things got in the way. But higher education, of course, is important to me. Clearly, it's what I do for my career. So I always like to share that with people that I talk to and just be as relatable as I can, because I know I'm probably not the only person here in this room that kind of steps back and thinks now, I wish I would have done something back then, or why didn't I finish it then? But a lot of things happen to just come up. Some things are out of our control. Maybe there's life events that just deterred us from finishing. And of course, with me being an admissions director here at Bottega, I always tell every student that I speak with that having a higher education, always pushing forward, always making sure that you're giving yourself the best knowledge and providing a good future for yourself really does start with education. Most of you here on this call, I have had a conversation with probably more than once. Again, so happy that you're here, so happy to see that you're furthering your education, whether that be for your own achievements, your own accomplishments, whether that be to secure that really great dream job that you want. Maybe it's a lateral position within a company, maybe it's for a promotion within a company, maybe it's completely something different than what I've said. But knowing that you're all here for a reason and you're doing something to better yourself, and that really does start with higher education. And of course, you know, we talk a lot about stackability. We talk a lot about not just stopping at a full stack development certificate program, or not just stopping, with your associate degree or a bachelor's degree. Don't let just one accomplishment stop you. Just really continue going through what you're going through, make those accomplishments, mark those goals off your list. And, you know, really once you finish a full stack program, know that Bottega is here to help move you to that next step in stackable education. As you all may know, those 18 semester credit hours really do, proceed further into education.
Kelly, we have a couple of questions.
Yes, I see that. Okay.
How often do you have to be on site if you get hired on? The nearest city I live closest to is Charlotte, North Carolina. It's an hour and 45 minutes away. It's for Mimi.
Hi, yes. Thanks, Mia. I know I wrote this in the chat, but for anyone that doesn't see it, that it totally depends on the client and the role and the team. So I would say that's a really far drive to be in a hybrid or an in-person role. It's totally up to you. But if it's a hybrid role or in person, and full-time in person would be 5 days a week, hybrid is typically 2 to 3 days a week in the office.
Okay, Mimi, if there's another question, is it internship or full-time roles opportunities?
They're full-time temporary positions. So they're 40 hours a week for 6 months. That's the minimum length of time for the returnship. And then at the conclusion of the returnship, there could be an opportunity to convert to full-time. That's the goal. That's kind of the mission of the entire program, is to get converted to full-time. It depends on the performance of the participant. It depends on, making sure the headcount is still available. They typically have headcount in the beginning of that 6 months, but sometimes there's a reorg and things change. But that is the goal. And we have usually about 85% of the participants do get converted to full-time positions. We just can't guarantee it, but those are our stats, and that's how the program works.
Okay, does anyone have any other questions for Mimi? Mimi, we sure appreciate you joining us tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, if there's no other questions, again, feel free to reach out to myself with any, questions about additional programs that we offer here at Bottega. Mimi, of course, is more than happy to answer any questions as well. As she said, you guys can find her on LinkedIn or, Facebook, Instagram, things of that nature. So definitely reach out and she would be happy to answer any questions, I'm sure. Mia also has an additional question. The returnship, is that full-time? She did not see any data science roles. How often do they open?
So they open sporadically throughout the year. We don't have any data science roles with Citi right now, but they do pop up quite often. But yes, it's a full-time, so 40 hours a week for 6 months. Hopefully that answers your question.
Mia, Mimi, there was an earlier message about the flyer showing women, and I think Nathan asked about, do you assist men too? So you might want to.
Yes, and I'm so glad that he brought that up. Yes, I think that originally when our company was first founded, it was for women. However, men and women both take career breaks for various reasons. So any human that has taken a voluntary career break of 2+ years is qualified for our programs, and we put a lot of men back to work as well.
Okay, any other questions for Mimi?
Nathan, thanks so much for sharing more about that. If anyone is interested, we appreciate that. Mia says, what if I have a part-time job and I am in school? I like to get things rolling in every aspect of my life. Would it interfere?
Likely would interfere if you have a full-time job, although it really depends on the individual circumstance. So everybody's on a very different journey. Everybody has different things going on. So when in doubt, apply. That's my that's my rule of thumb. Typically, if you have a full-time job with a returnship, there isn't a whole lot of time for another position, especially if you're looking to potentially get hired. If you're in school, that could work out well as long as it doesn't interfere with your role. Then that might be okay. But and the pay scale totally depends on the role. Every role pays a different rate, so it would be on an individual basis.
Great questions, Mia. Thank you.
Mimi, what kind of positions do you have the most interest in?
Right now, tech. I would say QA engineers, software engineers are two big ones, Java developers. So those stand out to me. Right now, the tech, the city program, it's a little light on tech, but typically those are the biggest needs that we have.
Are there advancement opportunities, opportunity for growth?
So if you're converted to a full-time position, then the world is your oyster and you are able to grow and advance as you would as a full-time employee. But during the returnship, you're in the same position for the entire 6 months unless you are converted early. But the opportunity there is to get to know that company, get to know the people, network. And that's really where the opportunity lies. But you kind of make of it what you want. And if you are looking to grow and advance, a returnship is a great place to start.
And what would you tell someone that's applying for ReachHire, for mentorship, things of that nature? What types of career breaks have you seen and be able to mentor them through those? Whether that's a year career break or like yourself, a 10-year break, how would you mentor that person to feel confident enough that they can re-enter that workforce and know that they're going to make a difference?
So we've actually put people back to work who have had as long as a 30-year work break. So I would say the average is about 8 years. It is required to have at least a 2-year career break when you start the program. So we have worked with people at all levels. So when you apply and when you have that first screening interview with the recruiter, they talk you through the whole process. We do pretty thorough interview prep, resume edits. So we really provide a white glove service through the whole process. So if you need additional prep, additional help, you're not sure what's going to be asked, we give you everything that we have, and we give you a lot of our time so that we set you up for success. And the good part about these roles is that they're not open to the public. They're only open to us. So you would not be, you wouldn't be interviewing against a traditional candidate. You would only be interviewing and competing with other returnship applicants through ReachHire, typically only 2 or 3 per position. So we do have a lot to offer in terms of support for people with all levels of career break. And that is our bread and butter. That is something that we do really, really well. So thank you for asking about that.
Sure, of course.
Okay, guys, this is your chance. Ask her anything. Okay, it looks like we've got a silent group, but a big group. So thank you so much, Mimi, for helping with this presentation tonight and making such an impact on those trying to change their lives and get back to work.
Well, thank you again, and thanks for all the great questions. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, we're going to give you back a little bit more of your night tonight. So have a good rest of class for those who are in class tonight. And if you have any questions or need to review this, we're going to have it on our website in the morning, okay? All right, thanks, Kelly.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.